But you know, that part of Europe was, I would say, it's an underprivileged part of Europe. And an Englishman wrote a book here 2-3 years ago about the countries along the river Danube. And he is lamenting, the misery that these populations have suffered, over the thousands of years. About over 2,000 years ago, like 2,500 years ago.
But it was a very good movie.
We saw a good movie
there were
recently that was
a population called the Dacians in Transylvania,
called,
in Banat, and also east of the Carpathian Mountains. And
it was really good. It was about...
they had their own culture, they had even their beliefs about their... Zamolxis was their god. And they thought that if they die in battle, then yeah. So they were actually warlike, but they didn't really do too much. And about 2,400 years ago, a Greek historian, actually that's the first one on record, Herodotus, he wrote about the people living in Transylvania. He called them Getae, The Dacian name came up later on, the Romans occupied it. He called them Getae, and he said they have lots of gold, that they all wear gold jewelry. That is because in the western mountains in Transylvania are gold mines.
Was it on
since ancient times, which was the reason the Romans eventually conquered it. And they had a good life after that because they had the Dacian gold. But these Getae, they were...
that cake was excellent.
He said they had lots of gold and they were carrying the jewelry. And then he said they had their wives in common. The wives and the children were living in certain houses. And with the warrior who wanted to spend the night there, he went there to that particular house of the woman, planted his lance in front of the door, and went in and spent the night there. And everyone else knew that he's there, the lance in front of the door, so another guy didn't go. Maybe the next day when the lance wasn't there, another guy went. But the point is, so apparently they had the children in common. I didn't know. But that's what that guy wrote. But later on, it became an organized country in about 200 years ago. They already went into history. They had a king that was able to unite various groups of them. And then about 2,000 years ago, they sort of were looking over the Danube River at the Roman provinces that were there. And everywhere where the Romans were, things were well organized, there were law, was prosperity, and they were looking over and saying, those guys are so rich, so why don't we steal a little bit? So they were conducting some raids over the Danube. The Romans didn't like it. And one of their more ambitious emperor, actually, I would say he probably was the best emperor. Because he was such a good military man, the armies, the legions declared